May 9, 2014, Mariupol. An infantry fighting vehicle rams a barricade made of tires at full speed and breaks through a crowd of separatists chanting "Russian world." This video spread all over the internet. It became a symbol that Ukraine has an army and it is ready to fight. At the controls of that infantry fighting vehicle was a 31-year-old major. His name was Mikhailo Dropatyi. 12 years later, this man became the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine. And the first thing Russia did was put him on the federal wanted list. Today we look at the portrait of a man some have been waiting for and others fear. Who is Drapaty and where did he come from? Why is he called the fireman general, the one who is sent where things are burning? Why did he resign at the peak of his career? And what does that say about his character? How does he behave with the soldiers? And why is he respected among the troops, not just feared? And the main question is, what will change now that he is the one leading the army? Mikhail Vasilyevich Drapaty was born on November 21, 1982 in Kamenets-Podolsky. He is now 43 years old. After school, he attended the Kharkiv Tank Troops Institute. He began his officer service in the 72nd Mechanized Brigade, the very one that was then commanded by the future Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky. Under Syrsky's command, he rose to the position of battalion commander. This is a very important detail. They started out together, but ended up in conflict. From 2022 to 2025, Dropatov was constantly sent to the most difficult and critical areas to stop the Russian offensive. That's why he was nicknamed the firefighter. Not in the sense of putting out fires, but in the sense that when everything is burning, they call him. Mariupol, 2014. On May 9, 2014, Major Drapaty was commanding the 2nd Mechanized Battalion of the 72nd Brigade. The battalion received an order to enter Mariupol, break through to the seized city police department building, and free the hostages. During the operation, the IFV under his command broke through the barricade of supporters of the so-called Russian world. The video spread all over the internet. Russia remembered him. Since then, in the aggressor country, Drapaty has gained a reputation as a person who hates Russians. That's an excellent reputation for the commander-in-chief of an army fighting against that very Russia. What's important to understand about this episode is that May 14, 2014 is not 2022. At that time, the Ukrainian army was still a half-ruined post-Soviet machine. Many officers were confused and afraid. Many were waiting for orders from above. Drapaty completed the task quickly, decisively, and without wasting words. His style hasn't changed since then. In the fall of 2022, he took part in the liberation of Kharkiv. Then he led the Luhansk Operational Tactical Group. In 2024, he was in charge of the defense in the Kharkiv direction. There, the Ukrainian military managed to stabilize the situation in the Vovchansk area. Kharkiv in 2024 was a real crisis. Russia came from an unexpected direction, broke through the defenses, and created a threat to the second largest city in Ukraine. Drapaty stabilized the front. This year, under my command, 700 square kilometers of our land have been liberated. The army that was putting up a tough defense 2 years ago is now advancing, he said. These are not the words of a press officer. These are the words of a man who was there. A resignation that said everything, or at least a great deal. At the end of November 2024, Drapaty became the commander of the Ukrainian ground forces. But already at the beginning of the summer of 2025, he resigned. He took responsibility for the deaths of soldiers at a training ground in the Sumy region. The soldiers came under attack from a Russian Iskander missile during exercises. 12 people were killed. Drapaty then said, "I didn't press hard enough, I didn't convince them, and I didn't change attitudes toward the individual soldier." Stop for a second. A Ukrainian army general took responsibility for the losses and resigned. Publicly. He didn't look for someone lower in the hierarchy to blame. He didn't say, "This is war, these things happen." When was the last time you saw any other general resign over the deaths of their soldiers? I, for one, never have. Because in many other armies, they often give medals for that. At the same time, there was also a conflict with Syrsky. Most likely, it was both at the same time. But the fact remains, when the tragedy happened, Drapaty said, "This is my responsibility," and left. That's called a fact. On July 22, 1926, Zelensky officially relieved Syrsky of his position as commander-in-chief and appointed Dropatov to the post. On the same day, the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs put him on the federal wanted list. The investigative committee charged him in absentia for fighting against the aggressor on his own land. Just think about that. When Russia quickly adds someone to the wanted list right after their appointment, it's a clear sign they're doing something right. Kremlin Press Secretary Peskov said that the appointment of the new commander-in-chief is unlikely to lead to any changes at the front. That's the standard phrase. They say that about every new Ukrainian military leader. It's like a mantra. Because to admit that Ukraine's personnel decisions matter would mean admitting that Ukraine is a capable state. And that's unbearable for the Kremlin. Russian propagandists and pro-war Z bloggers are in a panic. They're genuinely afraid of Drapaty. So what does Drapaty represent? And why is this appointment so important? First of all, it's a generational change. Syrskyi represents the Soviet school of command, experience, competence, but also Soviet DNA. A strict hierarchy, tight control of information, top-down command. Drapaty's style is strict discipline, personal involvement, and constant work on mistakes. This is a completely different generation. It's a different generation. The one that has been fighting since 2014 and learned from real-life experience, not from Soviet regulations and books. And secondly, and this is very important, service members say he makes decisions quickly, takes care of his people, and pays attention to them. In a war of attrition, this is not just ethics, it's a strategy. An army that doesn't waste its soldiers senselessly fights longer, better, and more effectively. And thirdly, his resignation in June 2025. A person who is able to publicly take responsibility and step down is someone you can work with, because he doesn't live by the code of mutual cover-up, which he himself criticized. The main question facing Drapaty now is the same question facing the army and society. Will he not only be able to hold the front but also change the logic of the war? Time and developments at the front will tell. And I want to ask you, and I'm really interested in your answer, how do you assess the change of the commander-in-chief? Do you think it's the right decision? Or did Syrskyi leave at the wrong time, at a moment when the stability of command is more important than any personnel changes? What do you think? Write in the comments. There is no right or wrong answer here. There is no right or wrong answer. And I'm interested to know what you think. And of course, if you want to keep up with what's happening at the front and in high-level politics, subscribe to the channel. Become a sponsor of this channel. It's extremely important. Every day, analysis without fluff and without propaganda. This was me with you, and as always, the conclusions are up to you. See you here tomorrow.